The comedy scene in any city is, are we allowed to swear? Essentially just a constant stream of 22-year-old assholes, self-important, narcissistic dickbags. And not to say that all comedians suck, but generally speaking, if you are the type of person that wants to get on stage in front of a microphone and have your voice amplified to a crowd of people for 45 minutes while a light shines on you, chances are you're probably kind of a dick. I was a stand-up comedian for 15 years, 1997 through 2012. I was the stand-up comedian, and I was, I was working and I was performing in clubs and I was running my own shows and I ran a comedy club and I was teaching comedy classes. I was doing like juggling a million different things and doing it all. And if you would have asked me like in 2010, like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Like that would have been my answer. It's really great to be able to work with people that are enthusiastic about what you're doing. And in something like comedy or like pretty much any entertainment business, it's all very kind of matter of fact. And everyone looks at you as competition almost. And it's a lot of like headbutting and gatekeeping and nonsense like that. But when you're able to find people that are excited about what you do, it's pretty fun. My comedy was always like purposeful. I always had like a message in my comedy. I'd always like to get a point across. And one of the things I always told my comedy students is like, it's fine to like do goofy jokes, non sequitur stuff, whatever, the observational stuff. But like, if you have a point of view, if you have something that you want to get across to an audience, there's no better way to convince somebody of your point of view, whether it be political or social or otherwise, than using comedy, because that's the universal language for everyone. If you can laugh at something and get somebody to learn something at the same time, it's the most amazing thing you can do as a comedian. And, you look at the greatest comedians in the world, George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and, you can name any of them. Like a lot of the things that these guys say or said, there's a message there. Like you see memes all the time with Carlin's stuff about religion and abortion and everything else on it, because that stuff is timeless. So really having a perspective that teaches people something or gets something out there, even as a stand-up comedian, I was teaching people things. There was a joke I always loved to tell. Like, I don't understand homophobia. You get these guys that are like, oh, I don't understand how you can tolerate two guys kissing and fucking each other and holding each other by the fire while they're looking into each other's eyes and falling asleep in each other's arms and waking up in the morning and knowing what true love feels like. That's got to be beautiful. I mean, gross and disgusting and wrong. How could you be And that was a joke I love to tell anywhere. And I would see like the most redneck motherfuckers sitting in the front row, a bunch of like guys in like flannel and mustaches and like biker jackets and stuff. And they'd like, when I got into that joke, they would be like all angry faced. And then by the time I got to the punchline, they're like laughing and slapping each other on the back and stuff. Hey man, I don't agree with a lot of what you say, but that joke you did about the gay stuff, you made a really good point, man. That was real funny, man. And it was awesome. And I loved performing. And you can hear the enthusiasm in my voice talking about experiences like that. But it was just constant butting heads. And I felt like I was back in high school. It was like just constant drama. I loved performing. I loved writing comedy. I loved making people laugh. But everything that went along with it was just constant stress. I was having panic attacks all the time. And I was like, I'm going to die before I'm 40 if I keep doing this. So I kind of stumbled back into foraging. Foraging has always been kind of a hobby of mine since I was a kid. And I had started seeing a new girl and we went on a nature hike and found some chanterelle mushrooms. And I'm like, hey, let's go mushroom hunting. That's fun to do for a new couple, right? And after a few weeks, I'm like, it's too many mushrooms, sick of mushrooms. So I started taking them to farmers markets and selling them to the River Valley Ranch, which sells mushrooms at all the farmers markets. And by the fall, I was bringing them like 50 to 100 pounds a week. And they're like, we can't take that many mushrooms. Why don't you go talk to some restaurants? So I just started calling up restaurants and being like, hey, I got these wild mushrooms. You want them? And they're like, yeah, hell yeah, we want them. So I started bringing in mushrooms to the restaurants. And, I just kind of went back to my normal routine in the wintertime. And then in the spring, they started calling me and being like, hey, do you have ramps? Do you have nettles? Do you have this? Do you have that? We're looking for that. And I'm like, let's see here. Now, I've been doing stand-up comedy for 15 years. And if I want to get a gig at a comedy club in bumblefuck, Minnesota. I have to contact the owner, and I got to send in tapes, and I got to get recommendations, and I got to keep calling and following up and emailing and go up there for an audition. And maybe 6 months from now, I can get a weekend for $500 that doesn't even pay me for gas, have no friends or any family or anything to do in that shithole town while I'm up there for the weekend. Or I can go to the woods with my friends and spend an afternoon having a lovely time talking about things and joking and digging up things in the woods and make $3,000 the next day. What's the better option here? I always kind of described my method of selling. It was like being at the checkout aisle and having all these impulse buy things. So, chefs would like tear through everything going, oh, we can put this on that dish and we can put this on that dish, and like kid in a candy shop for a lot of these chefs. So as the restaurants started piling up and I started finding more and more things to sell to chefs and learning more about foraging as I was going, I decided, like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on the foraging because this really makes me happy. And I don't have to deal with any drama outside of dealing with grumpy chefs once in a while. And generally speaking, it's nice to be able to come in the back door of a restaurant and have everyone like, oh, Dave's here. Everyone gather around.
Next week in Inglewood. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's
Ding Dong.
From Superphonic Studios. This is Chicago. Listen every Sunday.